Good afternoon or good morning. So I guess it's still morning, folks. Won't be a long live stream. Of course, I've said that before, and then like an hour and a half later, we're done. But I did want to touch base with you guys about the weather, because I was watching the news this morning. Oh, sorry, camera. Trying to get my ducks in a row this morning. Normally my Wednesdays are terrible, right? I have calls in the morning, calls in the afternoon. Then they canceled the morning, then reinstated it after I saw the cancellation, but nobody called me to let me know they redone it. So I showed up in the last like 20 minutes of the damn call. So I missed most of it. And then my afternoon call got canceled while I was trying to figure out if the other one was canceled. So now, like, I didn't plan anything today because I normally have, 6 hours of meetings out of 8 hours in the day. And now I have no meetings. Hold on a second here, boys and girls. Let me put live chat while everything is still working. Hope you all are doing well, by the way. So I did want to touch base with you because I saw something in the news this morning while I was trying to figure out, hey, coffee, trying to figure out what meetings were or were not canceled. And dude, don't text and like go through a parking garage, pendejo. Don't back up either. Y'all texting and not paying attention. Like, hands-free, people. Flipping hell. Which is what I do. As you can see, my hands are on the steering wheel. I'm actually looking up, not down. Hey, good morning, Suburban. So there was a fire reported, a grass fire outside of Austin, Texas. I believe it was in the Cedar Park area. I believe it's under control now. I'm not sure. But it was bad enough that they evacuated 30 houses. Now, if you're not familiar with that part of Texas, it is a very pine tree, rolling hill. It's a very green area, unlike out here, which is the damn 2 steps shy of a desert. It's really grasslands. And, hey, what's good, Dan? Good afternoon, or good morning, depending on where you are. So they actually had to evacuate people, and they had like a few people come on the news, like the reporters are like, did you get evacuated? And they're like, one person's like, yeah, but we lived in hurricane country, so we kind of knew what we needed to do, and we got out pretty quick, and we're gonna go home. The home wasn't burned or anything, which is good. But you could tell that person, if he wasn't a prepper, at least thought ahead and went, oh yeah, we lived in hurricane country. So, are you even looking? You're at a stop sign looking sideways. Oh, you're just clueless. All right, you're just a stupid person. Yeah, I'm in a mood with the other drivers today. So, that's not bueno. Hey, Jess, what's going on? At the same time, I saw another report that Lahawi village in Hawaii on the island of Oahu, fire broke out in a farm, and now there's a whole section of Oahu's on fire by this village, and those are all wooden buildings out there, so that's not bueno either. And of course they're like, oh, climate change, and I'm like, no, dumbasses and hot temperatures. But it brings up the point, orale Joe, a lot of people forget, like, the best idea typically is to bug in, right? If there's some kind of emergency. So if there's a riot or the chupacabra, or I got a great story coming on later today about the Peruvian pelacaras, which is just freaking horrendous, actually, when you think about it. But there's certain things you're going to want to bug in first and then bug out, but there's certain things you do have to bail out for, and we saw that during Hurricane Harvey. You get 8 feet of water in your house, you're gonna have to go, right? You get a forest fire around your house, you're gonna have to go. And a lot of people don't factor that in. But to be honest, I don't think a lot of people are prepared to bug in either. But it's something we need to think about in the back of our minds. I created that bug out book, and I really need to do a better video on it. But we travel so much, we have suitcases, and I know for a fact we've had family emergencies come up where we had to go to visit a relative, and my wife and I can be packed in a truck in about 30 minutes. So you add bringing the potatoes, And if you watch my video on the dog pegboard, I like have all their harnesses and everything set up like a deployment board. I literally can grab dogs and harness, and then I have seat belts for them, and we literally can pack dogs, important papers, firearms, cash. Like we can be gone in less than an hour with everything you need, and probably in 30 minutes if we were really in a bind. But it's important to keep aware with these extreme weather fluctuations of what's going on in your area. I think a lot of people conceptually understand bugging out, but they don't realize, like, if you're not paying attention to what's happening in your area and you completely get caught off guard, and sometimes you can't help that, you might wind up in a case where you're trying to evacuate and pack in smoke and then drive away in smoke through fire or through floodwaters. So it's important to kind of keep tabs on your weather. That's probably one of the biggest wild card factors somebody can experience, is an abrupt weather change. And on the Gulf of Mexico, it happened constantly. Like, every Cajun I knew was like a closet prepper, because they didn't even call it prepping. They're just like, no, I'm a Cajun. That's what I do, you know? And that's basically what they did. It was just part of their life. It's like, it's hurricanes, done. We have canned food because there's hurricanes. They didn't even have a special word for it in South Louisiana. I'm sure they're legit, like, high-end preppers there, but most of them were just like, no, the prepping just comes with this area. We have gators and hurricanes, and that's serious stuff. But having seen those articles this morning kind of got me thinking, and I meant to come on earlier, but they screwed up my schedule today. We got to pay attention to what happens in our backyard, both literally and figuratively. Because if we don't know what's happening close to us, like that fire, I'm not in the Austin area, so I didn't even think about it. But, you know, out here, we not only have a lot of dry grass and grasslands, we have oil wells and gas wells. Like, those things, when they lose control of one and it blows up, it's like a Moab going off. Like, it puts people on the floor 100, 200, 500 yards away. So that would be bad if, for instance, out here we have a fire in the solar field and it takes out a quarter of our solar grid, right? Or have a fire in the natural gas wells and a well blows up, and you have a whole new problem. So understanding what's around you and paying attention to local reports is important. Pete, hold on, I can't see what Joe just said. Idaho burns 3 months every year, and we call it pine smokes. Right, but you know that's normal. You know Idaho has fires at that time of year. It's like, you live in Houston, you know, they say hurricane season starts in June. I've rarely seen a hurricane in June. Ark Wildman, you may have gotten Tequila Joe yesterday, or Vodka Joe if he fell asleep on you. But yeah, it's, hold on, I lost the chat here. Don't trust. No, and Lee, you can't, but at least if you know there's a hurricane out there, you can kind of say, and to be fair, the weather people can try to predict the storm. They can't predict the levee. That's like not in their wheelhouse. But at least you know the storm's there, react accordingly. And if you don't feel confident. So, true story, before Harvey, I was still in the Guard. I was in that civil defense unit down in Houston. We were attached to the 147th Fighter Wing and the 136 Army National Guard. And we were kind of a little hybrid unit. And that's what we did. It was like we backfilled the young guys when they went downrange, because we were all a bunch of old shits anyway. And we were part-time, you know, kind of like reserve of the reserve. But a week before, that storm had already formed. It was in the Gulf, getting angry at the universe. And I'm watching it, and somebody from the school board that I knew sent me a text saying, hey, the city is saying it's not going to be 10 inches. It's going to be ugly. So my younger brother at the time, was an active duty Navy chief, and he was on the East Coast. And I called him and I'm like, dude, do you have a meteorologist on your post? And he said, yeah, we do. I said, can you ask that guy what the Navy's take is on Katrina, on Harvey? And he's like, yeah, let me go ask him. I'll get back to you this evening. So he calls me back. Hey, Pilgrim. And he calls me back that afternoon, or he texts me, and he goes, so they have 3 predictions. 1, it'll go into San Antonio and tear up San Antonio. 2, it's going to swing, make this big J-hook and just tear the shit out of everything and be gone in 48 hours. Scenario 3 is the one they're worried about, because if it stalls over the coast, it's just going to suck up that warm air, and it's going to piss on like San Antonio, Victoria, Houston, that whole Gulf Coast area, and just cause a boatload of flooding, and then it's going to make little circles and tear up the area. And he said they're starting to see that scenario become more likely. And I'm like, well, crap. So I got a hold of the school board lady, and I'm like, where'd you get that information? And she's like, yeah, it came from city council. So the city knew, but the news, what they were telling the news, hey, Macabus, to tell the public was, oh, it'll be 10 inches, take necessary precautions. They were trying not to create a panic like they did for Ike. Ike freaked everyone out because of what happened in Katrina. In Harvey, they hesitated a little long, but then we started seeing the mobilization orders on the state guard emails, and we started seeing units from out of the area coming in, because the guys in the affected area are last to get called. And we're like, okay, they're moving people around. They're waiting. They don't know what's happening. And they wound up, that's 3rd scenario is exactly what happened. The storm stalled out, and it started making this little like figure 8, and it would just go to the Gulf of Mexico, pick up a bunch of water and angry shit, and then go and be angry on the coast, and then come back out and recharge. And it did this for almost a week. And the original prediction was 8 to 10 inches of water. We got 54 inches of water in the Houston area in under a week's time, right? It just absolutely destroyed the city. The response was good, but again, to the point you're making, they can't always predict where the storm's going to go, and even if they know, they're very hesitant to cause a panic. So we have to do our own digging, right? We have to go make some calls, do some research, and say, okay, this is the best case, this is the worst case. What are we going to expect here? So folks, I learned something this morning, or it really refreshed, it brought home, I guess, to me, because conceptually we all know this. Pay attention what happens in your area and understand. See, but Joe, the weathermen actually don't try to deceive us. They just screw up. The politicians like to deceive us. 9 inches in 4 hours. That's a lot of rain in 4 hours. Holy shit. But it's important, understand your area. Like Joe was saying, they get fires out there, certain times a year. Not a scary thing. We get straight up haboobs out here. Any of you guys served in OIF or Desert Storm, you know what a haboob is. And it's legit. You can't see. We had to pull convoys over. We're like radioing the convoys. Like, everyone just pull the hell over. Get out of the road, go to the truck stop. You're done. You cannot proceed because you can't freaking see where you're going. And then, of course, people getting wrecks because they don't listen. A haboob is basically a dust storm from hell. I'm talking like Dust Bowl level dust storms, like from history books. I got a picture, I got a post of one somebody took from an airplane flying into the city, and literally it's a wall that the plane's at 15,000 feet. It's making its descent, and it's just basically a cloud of dirt from about the level of the airplane straight to the ground, and it's straight down. It rains dirt. Yeah, we get dirt rain too, and then your truck looks like ass for 3 months. But understanding what's typical in your area, and it got me thinking, watching the Austin, and my daughter lives in that city, outside of the city. So I texted her and I'm like, hey, you're aware of this, right? And she's like, yeah, we've been watching it, but it's, it's 40 minutes away, so we just want to make sure it doesn't spread closer. But she said we're already putting, we pulled all our luggage from our last vacation. We made sure we did all our laundry, so we have clean clothes. If we gotta go, we'll just grab our shit, grab our dogs, and we're out. And she said we'll probably head to, wherever destination. Being aware of what's typical in your area gives you kind of a backwards game plan, right? So if like you live in Houston or Florida, You're like, we get hurricanes and it floods. I may or may not have to evacuate for a hurricane. I will have to evacuate for 8 foot of water in my house. Where do I go? What should I be doing? What should I bring with me? Do I know where all my papers are? Remember, prepping is an evolutionary thing, and that's why a lot of us make these videos, because we all forget, right? Life goes on, and we do other things, and then you kind of move on from the prepping thing. But yeah, now, why the fires happened, the one in Austin was supposedly a grass fire. They have a lot of homeless outside of the city. They also have a lot of drunk teenagers, and it's the end of summer, so it could have easily been a bunch of drunk teenagers. They're smoking weed and drinking, and they knocked over their fire, and then they ran away, because that's what teenagers do. And they caused a grass fire and evacuated homes. Hawaii, no idea what might have caused it. But understanding your typical area and how things happen and what could happen, it really informs you. It kind of gives you the skeleton of a game plan, right? The framework where you can say, wow, okay, if we go to this extreme, we need to go. There's a refinery, it's about an hour away, but the prevailing wind out here likes to go from west to east. Not all the time, but most of the time. Well, they probably just Sharknadoes and snow apocalypse, right? But just understanding, hey, Marcy T, just understanding. Oh, is he? Okay, I didn't realize he come. Oh, it's Wednesday. I thought it was Thursday. Shit. Well, hell's bells. Normally, I come on earlier on Wednesday. Like I said, my schedule got all screwed up when they canceled all my meetings and then moved them around. But yeah, folks, something to think about is to keep in the back of your mind, hey, this is typical in my area. What would I do if the worst case, or case A, B, C, and D? And at least have that in your framework of your mind, and then look at your preps and say, can I change anything to adapt for a sudden fire, a sudden flood, a tornado, something like that? Some is hard to really. I'm riding the storm out. Yeah. And honestly, other than Ike, which we tried to evacuate, and that was a bad idea, we never evacuated for a storm before or since. Even Harvey, I just hunkered down. We've collected all the important papers. That's when I made the original bug out book and moved everything upstairs, because we had a 2-story home. And my sons, one had just come back from the Army, one was a Boy Scout in FFA. We just made the house ready. We got the flashlights, the whole 9 yards. One boy went to Walmart, one boy went to Target, I went to Home Depot with a list of whatever we were missing or we needed to back up some more. And yeah, we had it done. Mom was making the house ready while the boys were shopping. And yeah, within 5 days before the storm made landfall, we were already ready. We were just filling little gaps that we hadn't thought of because we got busy. But folks, understand your area and what's typical, and then ask yourself, okay, if scenario A happens, how would I react? B, C, D. Doesn't have to be panic. Again, you plan in advance so you're not panicking when shit happens. And you guys, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but just something to think about. It kind of caught me off guard. Anyway, I do got to get to another lunch meeting. So guys, God bless and be safe out there. And again, if you're new to your area, I'm new to this area. I've been here only like 3 years now. Newer. Get familiar with the trends in the weather, natural things that happen, and even man-made accidents that happen, just so you know. And Daryl, absolutely right. Practice. Be mindful of how you're going to handle things so that you're not trying to figure it out if an emergency happens. And Joe hides his booze. Okay, for the record, the times I've had to go and visit people who are in trouble, a bottle of bourbon was always brought with me. So just saying, that's not necessarily a wrong thought, Joe. Anyway, guys, I got to go. Be good. Angry Prepper should be on. I think I kind of crashed into him. Go say hi to Jason, and I will see you all later. Take care.